Hello! I am here again with another book review, this time of Switched by Amanda Hocking. The main character is Wendy, and she is a changeling, which means that she is a troll, or a trill as they call themselves. She was switched at birth with a human so that she could be raised in luxury and with the educational system that humans have. So that's kind of her backstory. What did I think of her? I really liked her. I liked the way she reacted to being told that she was a troll, because that's kind of how I would react. She was like, "You're crazy." No, that's not the case. And then only when she started to get more and more evidence that it was the case did she actually believe him. I loved the loyalty that she had towards her host family. Even though she did not have the best upbringing, she was still really loyal to her brother and her aunt. And when she did leave, she didn't do it because she wanted something better for herself. She did it because she wanted to protect them. My main question when it comes to Wendy is what makes her so different from the other Trill? She didn't really realize that she was different. I mean, she knew that she was weird, but she didn't ever think that she was like a mythical being, I guess. You know what I mean? Whereas like when Willow was talking to her later in the book, she was like, "Oh yeah, I always knew that I was better than everybody else." And then Finn says, "Oh, they usually just come with me right away because they realize that they're different." And it's like, why doesn't Wendy think that is good? Because she's younger? Or is it because she's the princess? And then also, she doesn't want to change her name, and I get that if she has a connection with Matt because of it, but it's kind of interesting that she is so very different from the rest of the Trill, so I'm hoping that that will be explained further in the sequel. And speaking of Matt, I really liked him. I thought he was a really great character for her to have, a really great person for her to have in her life. I loved that he named her. That's really cute. And I just love how protective he was of her. And then moving along to Finn, I think that he's a pretty good character. I thought he was pretty interesting and had some really interesting backstory stuff with everything that happened with his father and Elora. The one thing that I had a problem with when it came to Finn and Wendy in the romance is that I felt like it was a little bit rushed. We knew all along that Wendy liked Finn, but there really wasn't a lot of evidence the other way around, and so then when he does kiss her, it's kind of like, oh, what? Like, why? I didn't know that you felt that way about her. I just there had been something, even a couple glances her way, or he flubs up and makes a mistake and says something, and then she's like, what? I don't know. I feel like that could have been a little bit better, but other than that, I did think that he was a good character. And I liked that at the end, even when he left, he came back to protect her and stuff. I thought that was really cool. Oh, and I thought that his last scene was really sad. How Elora like let them have one night together and he knew. So then I want to talk about Rice, and I thought it was just the Manx in general. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but whatever. They were a really cool addition to the mythology and the, you know, world building, that they kept these changelings, the humans, and they allowed them to like live at their houses, and they weren't like servants and stuff, and yeah, they weren't like as respected as the other Trill were, but still, it could have been a lot worse. And like Rice says, you know, I've had all the toys and cars and everything that I could ever want. So I think that's pretty interesting, and I think that like Rhiannon, Willow's Manx, probably even had a better upbringing than Rice did, because with Elora, she's so cold and stuff that it makes sense that maybe he wouldn't have had quite as good of an experience as Rhiannon would. But I remember there being a line of something where like Willow was slightly jealous of Rhiannon because her father had raised Rhiannon, and that's why she was kind of bitchy towards her. Something like that, so that was kind of interesting. And then there are so many different Trill characters that I don't really have time in this video to talk about each one of them in detail, so I decided I would just say one word about each of the 3 Trill characters that I thought were important to the book. So for Elora, creepy. Willa, interesting. And Tove, surprising. And hopefully all 3 of them will get more appearances in the sequel, and we'll get to learn even more about them. So then the story. I really liked this story. It's one of the better paranormal books I've read lately. I especially like that it wasn't about vampires or werewolves or even fairies. All of those have kind of been done. I've not read a book about trolls before, so that was kind of cool. The 2 main things I really liked reading about were the world building stuff, anything that had to do with the Trill and like how their lives worked and all of that, and their powers and stuff was cool. And then the second one was the princess training stuff. Like, I could have done a whole book just of her princess training and like her learning how to be a Trill. I remember when I was reading it thinking, I would read a book from Willa. I would read like Willa's story, where there's not all the drama and like all of that. There doesn't even need to be like any sort of exciting stuff that happens, just kind of a regular Trill's story. Would be really interesting to read. Amanda Hocking. You should write that if you haven't already. And I already kind of said this about the romance, but again, I wish that there had just been a little bit more on Finn's part to make it feel a little bit more well-rounded and real, but I did like them together. I thought that was fine. And we'll continue to add drama later. I also think it's interesting that like the trackers are not considered important to their society and stuff like that, when you'd think they would, and that like even though there's only one princess, she could get banished just because she happens to be in love with a tracker. That's interesting. I want to know more about that. So then the writing style. Like I said, Amanda Hocking is great at world building. She doesn't make it clunky or boring, or it's not like she has to take a whole like section of just like down the page, no indents, just to explain something. She has characters telling it, and because Wendy doesn't know about it, we get to learn it kind of with her, so that's kind of cool. On the opposite side of that, she doesn't gloss over it either. You know, she actually does, she goes in depth, but she does it in a way that is interesting to read. I also think, like I said before, that this is a very unique world. Like I said, I haven't read anything about trolls. None of this stuff seems copied or anything like that. Everything just seems really unique and interesting, and I can see that, you know, she must have had a vision that she wanted to give this story out and stuff, so that's really cool. So overall, I gave this book 3 stars. I did like it a lot, and I am going to read the sequel. I do definitely recommend reading it. I'm going to continue reading this series. So what did you guys think of this book? If you have read it, let me know what you thought about it, and if you haven't read it, did what I say make you want to read it or not read it or anything like that? Anything you guys want to say, leave in the comments below. So I'm out of books to review now. Lately, I haven't been reading a whole lot of YA, which is what this channel mostly book review-wise is. I've been reading more nonfiction and then some classics as well. If you guys are interested in hearing what I have to think about those books, you can leave a comment and I'll think about making a review about one of those. If you have any suggestions about other YA books or just books in general that you would want me to review, leave those in the comments as well. I'm always looking for new books. But for the next few weeks, I think I'm going to be trying my hand at doing more vlog style videos. So just kind of some different things that I've been thinking about, different stories from my life, whatever, those kinds of things for the next couple of weeks. I will be reviewing the sequel to this book when I get around to reading it. So that'll probably be in a couple weeks. It'll be probably a month before I do another book review. So hopefully you guys will also enjoy my vlogs and you'll stick around to watch at least a couple of those and let me know what you think of them. And like I said, if you have any suggestions for books that I could review in the future, leave them in comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you guys next Thursday. Bye!